back and forth on the application or on the position, make sure it's the position you want. From the very point that someone says they're going to quit, all the way till when someone gets hired into that process. So we walk through all the days and everything it takes to do that. In our normal processes, approved by council and by our structure, 58 days.
I think that's generous. I think they were showing you a good day because it's.
No, that's if everything works
I
smooth.
turned my application in for my emergency hire. I turned in my application, my resume 3 times. So I had to walk it over there and watch them, put it in the file.
How many emergency hire positions are only supposed to be effective for 90 days, and you have the child support have been housing for how many years, and they're not full-time employees?
So that's 2 months. 58 days is 2 months. You know, I'm kind of playing by ear. I'm thinking 120 days, right? As
Well,
an average.
I've never gotten any answers on my resume or applications that are in there currently. I've never gotten them.
That's for an entry level
In a
position.
year.
A manager position that has to advertise a little bit longer. It's going to take a lot longer. I'm thinking 6 months. And then history has shown for an ED, it's a year and a month.
So
Well, by that time, people like yourself have gotten other jobs already.
Well,
And you almost got to start that process over.
Well, I put in, for example, I put in for program manager, which I don't want to work, I like the job I have, but the program manager that's there wants that job. So I did hope that if my file ever comes, I don't think it's really gonna get past there, so, you know, if I'm emergency hired forever, in 5 weeks, I like my job, but, it's just the fact that I don't get a call, I don't get a letter.
Now, the other issue, I mean, it's not a personal issue. I'm not trying to attack our HR people, in the system. I'm just saying it's our system that we've created over the years that is, and we're trying to follow as fair hiring practices and everything like that. This whole system, 58 days. Now, the other thing that we don't have that's very important for HR is a database system that they can input data into and hold your application in so that it can be pulled on a second's notice. Just like you said, your file probably got filed in the antiquated system, probably a cabinet that's not flammable proof or whatever. And so it's an old system. We need to get them upgraded to a new system so that they are aware. And we need all the players working together. They need to learn how to work together between Taro, between your managers, between your HR, between your accounting system. All those players, we need to get them all together, working together to decrease that time to at least 58 days. And then we can start, and then maybe we need to do some different things. Maybe we don't need to do, on-the-job training in some of these positions that are real simple to fill. Those are the kind of things we need to change, but it's going to, we're going to sit on the policy level of this, and we gave our administrator, full, get in there, revamp this system, get everybody working together, and let's fix it.
I want it to be, I want it so, when bad things happen, like, I did have an interview like a year ago, and it was 4 of us, and I figured a couple of them, I didn't even think we even considered. I just know that, I just couldn't believe that, there was 4 of us, and there were 3 Cobble tribe members and 1 member from another tribe. Well, he's the one who got hired, died from another tribe. He got hired. Okay, and then he died. And then the other 2 people, everybody said I was too nice. I shouldn't have complained and all that. I didn't know that was the policy that we're supposed to be really complaining, but everybody said that's their problem. They should be more complaining. But the person who really put up a big stink for the council and all their family members and stuff, they just placed me in that position and dropped it if I died. It should be like that.
But it should be, if they apply for the position, like she's saying, that the manager should be able to select from the employee packets that need to be filled out for the jobs. They should be the ones to determine who they want to select.
Not human resources.
That human resources take it upon themselves, and then you have human resources where you have analysts there that don't even have the education or experience to determine if you fit into that position. And then C-Tech, they'll advertise a position for a week, and then in the next week they're hired in that position. It takes them 2 weeks, and it only takes 1 day for a background check.
No, a lot of the issues we're talking about, like I said, we're addressing it. We know there's a serious problem with HR. We know it's been an ongoing problem. They're working and trying to collaborate with C-Tech and the tribal jobs and C-Fed, where you don't have to go over there and you go here and you apply for a job through the tribe and you go apply for a job. You gotta go to all these different places and turn in different applications. They're working on collaborating them all together where they all run together, where you can put in one application and it'll go out to all the different programs that just want to go. We're addressing that issue. They're trying to create a job bank. We know there's a serious problem with HR, and like I said a little while ago, that's one of the #1 things that we've given the new ED specific direction on is to address the problem.
Another thing I just want to bring up is, you were talking about communication. It'd be nice if council members could be working in their community and they go over there for the voting or whatever they do. If you have an office right here, you can see what's going on. If you have an office where I was, you see all the other voting people. Be here. And I think you would be able to talk to. I know it would be too much work for you. You want to talk to and tell you stuff, and they have to do that, but do your work here and you go over there and do your voting or whatever you have to do over there. I don't understand why everybody has to be there. Maybe our council should be here, our Omak.
I hear what you're saying, but I think the same holds true for like Olympia. There's a reason why, the representatives are there in Olympia and they're not at their home district, because business gets done. If they're not there while it's being done, this district could stand to lose out on a lot of stuff if they're not there, because business is getting done every day. We've improved.
Our technology is so good, you can be here and be getting stuff done. I mean, this could be weird if you're not going to get stuff done. I work in this town and I get stuff done. I get stuff done in this usually and wherever people are. I have people in Chile. I have almost this stuff done with the technology today. You can be here physically for the older people who don't have even the knowledge of this field, drive over there. It's really nice to be here.
I think 1 day a week would be feasible in my opinion, possibly on Friday. Because our committees is Monday through Thursday and Friday when we have committee, so Friday would be an open day. And I've even talked to Sony about it, and she even agreed, and I haven't really took her up on it. I asked her for an office over there. I did a couple months ago, and she agreed to give me one of the offices in the Longhouse, and I've never done that. But she just told me now that I can work with it.
Yeah, it's too hard. Some people really don't have $5. I don't have $5 for gas. I have to ask for help for gas for our places and stuff. So people don't have money to get up there. Right here. So they can walk. That's all.
Kelly,
Oh, I just wanted to just say, it's just different. I'm not sure which one, and it wasn't going to just recently that we started use the document to be covered. I think we just got to it for maybe we just got it for less than a month ago, I think. But up until then, it was the programs that we would send all the applications to the program. The program managers were the ones that were screening the applicants, and they would send a memo back to HR that said who they selected. And that's how it used to be. Now they changed it to where the associates are actually stating them, which I don't agree with, because I just did my first, we don't know everything that the managers would know. They're the ones that should be screening, but they're the ones that look at the meetings. I just did my first file.
20 years age.
And it's just, I feel like, I just want to do everything. But I don't think that, it's not my position to say who could qualify or who doesn't. I don't know. So Can you see my file? Is there red mark on it. But are you like, if you ever get in there, I'll look in there. Let's see what they say.
And they would let us know, and I know that like programs were screening applicants after, so they're not signing their application, which I think that when people turn in applications, it should be the front desk's job to make sure that the application is signed and it is complete, because the managers, I know one program just screen it up and not sign it for everything. And, you know, I don't know if that's ever been over there, but we just got, and I'm not comfortable with screening files, but we have, I guess that's the Francis wants to do. Francis Cultural, and we just got this.
Yeah, I don't know who sent the memo. It doesn't sound, I don't know. I mean, it doesn't sound like something Francis would do to give HR more control over the process, because that's not what he's trying to fix it.
Yeah,
So,
and I guess the problem was because there was programs that were just keeping files and just didn't have the time to review them. And so they were just out there. I think there was a time frame of a week or 2 weeks. It was 2 weeks that they had to review the file and send it back to HR. And then we would send others, but I guess some programs were taking longer. But I would like to see it go back to
believe me, we could, I've got 1,000 stories I could say about trying to get a job, having a master's degree, and I've been through it. I hear you. I'm serious.
So I love and beyond most jobs I've applied for, and I can't get a job. Because anything.
But the program will screen by those first level qualifications. You have to hit every one of those in order to get there. And they don't tell people that they need to really stress on this first year education.
So how does some people be emergency hired? I think it's a couple days, and some people take 2 months. It's exactly the difference.
And our experience.
Civil knowledge, they only
And then, Sony's been waiting.
I had a little visit last Thursday from Mr. Moshe. What's his name?
Anthony?
Yeah. We get him off to the road building. Air quality, mold, and asbestos. When I got the building, we turned it back into a gym. We walked up into the Omak, where the kitchen for 5 minutes. And my only concern is, are we ever going to get a new kitchen?
Please.
Kitchen in the meeting room, so you guys will have to meet over here. So you guys can be over there. So, you know, we get complaints every day, where's our kitchen? And I went over to Jalena's at Archie Anderson's meeting. We have a beautiful kitchen over there, except the power phone's going off. And this, you know, they have a nice kitchen, but it needs to be upgraded. Then we say, where's our kitchen, you know? Because with our kitchen, Benny gave me some ideas with smoking, because they was here too. Take out that old part, build it there, build that hallway there, and then with the old barbecue pit is out there, put a cover over that so we can move the weight room there. So that handicapped people can go use the weight room and the elders will have to go up the stairs. So that's all. One of these days, do we have a new kitchen?
You know, I'd like to respond to that because one of the things we want to discuss tonight during the meeting is our 1%. Each district got the 1% of the comp. And I've actually brought the SEDS document with me. And so we're going to be asking for input from the community. And for those who don't know, it's almost $1 million in each fund for each district. And so I think it's written a little gray in terms of how do you get some of that money. You know, I think it says it has to be community driven, if I'm correct. And so to me, that's still kind of vague and gray. And so we need to have more discussions as council to decide how we're going to make that move forward. But you know, that's why I brought my pen and paper, that's why I brought the sets here. I just whispered to John a while ago, hoping by about 8 o'clock we could maybe discuss the sets and see what some of the community may want, some of that money to be spent on. And the kitchens, I already got it written down.
Thank you, Dave. Because 5 years ago, Sherry was still on there. Sparrow Hawk, 2010. John probably remembers that.
What are they gonna do with the Temco settlement? With the
So we
tribal?
got two questions here. What,
The Sparrow Hawk did a survey on all of that, Sherry Jordan, one of the council secretaries on with it. We went out to the tribal members, on what they wanted. I don't know what happened, but that grant got turned down because they were being returned in time for $500,000.
well, there's a survey, we'll look at that survey. Now, you had a question?
Yeah, the Temco settlement, what does the council plan to do with that? Are they gonna bring that up to the table?
Are you referring to Tecumseh? Tecumseh was just to give you an idea, or background, Tecumseh was a lawsuit that the Cabo tribe started in 2004. Up in Trail, BC, there's a smelters, and Tecumseh was one of the largest smelters in the world. It's a corporation that's, in the last couple of years, they were averaging about $1 million a quarter in profit. They've been dumping heavy metals and slag in the Columbia River for the last 100 years. So when you see black sand beaches along the Columbia River behind Grand Coulee Dam, that's heavy metal slag, leftover stuff that's made its way down. Right now, we've been fighting this lawsuit to hold that company, that corporation, liable for dumping into the Columbia River. All their documents, everything that they've been, even their own memos back and forth show that they're liable. And right before the last court case, they admitted that they did do it. I'm not sure why they admitted that, because once we got to court, and then we hammered them on 3 other points of liability: personal jurisdiction, arranger liability, and there's another one I can't think of it right now. But so what that does, it solidified it that they were liable under U.S. law, and that the Environmental Protection Agency now can hold them accountable for the damage they've done over the last 100 years. That's a huge, monumentous decision that Indian, First Nations people, Indigenous people have ever held a foreign company liable for damage that they've done to them. So this is just the basic first step. We've got them. They're liable. Now it's time for our federal trustee, the Environmental Protection Agency, Department of Interior, to really step up, to put pressure on them to clean it, to clean it up. The only problem is, it's going to take at least 5 years to get an idea of how big a problem this is, how many tons of mercury, how many tons of zinc, cadmium. It's just amazing the amount of stuff that's there. We don't even know. So we don't even know how much is there. So right now we're just at the point of trying to get our heads around how much pollution is there. For the longest time, during that time, the Bush administration was the one that was in charge of EPA and Department of Interior. So we went to them like, hey, you got to help us clean this up. You got to help us with this. And they're like, well, they were really pro-business, and they didn't step up for us. We continue to fight it as a tribe because it was the right thing to do for our water, for our people, for our fish, and we won. But this is just the beginning. We haven't even touched how much that would cost to clean that up. We were trying to put that to some of the scientists, like how much is it going to cost?
You see it and it's seeped down and then you clean it up and put it back. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. So hopefully we can get EPA to clean it up. We can get, some money from the damages that have happened over the last 100 years. That's what we're fighting for. And right now, what I can report is that we don't even have an idea how bad of a problem it is. And we haven't even touched human, looking at cancer rates compared to the rest of the country.
You can go from second to third.
It's crazy.
People have died, people with cancer that have, second and third, and then open pit mines that they have. Then the water that comes from there and how many of them have died.
It is unbelievable. And we haven't even touched, so it's not just anything too, like Northport, they've got cancer rates that are crazy.
I just wanted to say something about that. I checked into the UN environmental, United Nations environmental, since it's international.
Actually, I was gonna talk to the council about trying to bring this down to present it. There's a meeting, indigenous peoples at the UN.
Yep.
There's a conference coming up in San Diego, so I'd like to bring this down there. Saturday, the Sierra Club is going to recognize the Pablo tribes as a water hero for winning this court case. So we're gonna take all this stuff. We're gonna put it internationally so that we shine a bright light on Texamico and what they've done. So. And I really applaud the council from the past that continued this fight because we put a lot of time and resources into it, a lot of money to fight this. But it was the right thing to do because that's our water, that's our resource, that's, Kettle Falls, that's our salmon. So, it was always the right thing to do. So right after we got them to, they were found liable for those determinations. Now we can get reimbursed for our legal costs. So we've been doing, keeping records of all the money, the meetings, everything that we've attended, lawyer fees, so we can get those back first.
Is Fish and Wildlife taking samples of the salmon? Because I know probably 5 years ago, they were talking about, when we were going down the Northport, about
Yeah, so that's another issue, and these are all things that are related to one another. So the Texamico case really looks at that at the sediment and stuff, but it affects sturgeon, it affects the salmon. The Department of Ecology has been really good in working with us on that Texamico case, but they've kind of become our ally when it comes to fish consumption, and so we're really putting a lot of attention on. Right now, the state has a consumption rate that is really low. So only a piece about this big per week per person. That's what they determine is safe, and we're like, 80 people eat a lot more salmon than that. So you need a safety rate for fish that's a lot higher, a higher standard. And they're trying to try not to move on that, because if they put higher fish consumption standards, it would require higher quality water. It would require a lot of work along the watersheds right around Seattle and those areas too, because a lot of the corporations that the state legislators are getting funded to get elected by don't want them to raise that consumption rate. So there's a battle going on. They're supporting us on one side, but we're really pushing them on raising that fish consumption standard to a rate that's acceptable to us. Because we're the caretakers of the water and of the salmon. And we eat a lot of salmon, so we're going to push like hell that those rates are safe for all of our people when we eat salmon.
Yeah, I was going to ask you guys here to give us when you come to your next meeting, to give us a quarterly fiscal report. I think is it in a resolution? You're supposed to do that, isn't that? Am I correct? Quarterly report.
Yes.
Yeah.
should be in, like, the minutes.
It's in our bylaws. What was the question?
All the tribal budget, all the business and everything, report on that, how we're doing, you know, what money we have, what's being used, all of that. I told you.
Yeah, we can do that. We can.
Yeah, that, I think it helps with all of these membership to know what's going on. Especially, I don't know.
Let's do a yearly fiscal report.
But even during resolution says quarterly. I was drawn up several years ago, I went to a meeting, that's what they stated.
I was trying to push for bi-yearly. That's extensive. But quarterly.
We should see a resolution.
That's what he's just asking. He said quarterly. He said no.
That's a good idea though, because it gives you a snapshot each along the way that helps with the organization, you know, where you're at.
And you don't wait a long period of time, you're there, right there in the shoulder.
We have this new Serenic accounting system that we're touting. You should be able to do it. You should be able to button, boom, punch out a report where the budgets are. I'm all for that. I like that. Scott, meet Tina.
The discussion for this lady here is, my daughter worked for Taro, E-Hire, and Taro was a shambles as far as I was concerned because I've been employed in construction for most of my life, doing other things. Never got a job, but my daughter gets in and says, Dad, you're not an assistant. Read, and I recommended them. That's what we need to do, make recommendations. And I told her, there's such thing as a 5-star program that we can create. You know, each star is the qualifications you have for the job. The stars get higher for these parts. You know, drug and alcohol free, attendance, your job references of your last employer, different things like that can make things go faster for your position, and you're hiring people that qualify for that. We have people that are, you know, when I work in the construction world, that were really good at these jobs, but they were quitters. They would start one job, go to another job, and leave the job hanging. You know, you and I saw that, different situation. We need something like that for our whole program. Rate the people for what they've got knowledge for and where their situation is put them into. And one of the other things is, are people in the spots of the hiring? You know, your secretary's all the way down. There is a lack of knowledge or even education on a lot of those that are in the front office. I mean, a secretary can damage you. Like I said, 3 times. I have credentials up my union for basically a lot of things. I'm sitting there for 2 years on an appointment going, I can't even get in on my own time. I went to talk to everything. And that's my whole life. I worked on organization because the tribal system won't accept the home. You know? Just because you don't see one of our own working for our tribe doesn't mean getting good. And if we could create a 5-star program of the situation, like say, attendance, you know, you're going alcohol food, you need your lawyer or back, you know, request from your former employers, things like that, you're rating your skills. And we can go through them kind of things to help those that are climbing to be higher where they're supposed to be, rather than, you know, doing loopholes and bringing in OJT for these positions that, you know, these people that are hiring ain't looking for somebody who's beginning, man. My thing is, when you start a position, you're a boss, you shouldn't have to be there to babysit. You got a job, you tell them, this is what I want, and they should all know. And even from working down at our hatchery down here for 9 months I worked, I basically became a babysitter at times because our own people knew how to do these things, but they had to be told every day. So, as upon myself, I said, come on, SOSBD, same old shit, different day. Get your deer, have it ready by 7:30 or 5:30. We're ready to go. I said, my truck's warmed up, you guys want holding us up, and we're being funded through federal money, yeah, it doesn't mean we got milk, milk in hand. We do everything fast as we can. And as soon as we start getting that going, our boss stepped away. This is what I wanted to see. That's what we need in our government system too. Even our employees at the reservation, they need to be rated just as good as the ones that are unemployed. That's a suggestion for fixing, not a complaint.
Job skills. I want to bring us back to the question that Benny was asking. We have that 1%. I really wanted to get to that discussion here before we have too many people leave. We really need to get, I think there's a $1 million sounds like a lot of money, but when you start doing these programs, when you start doing these projects, it really gets soaked up really fast. So there are a couple of projects that are being proposed: the senior meal site, the wellness center, the extended gymnasium, IHS. There's different things that are being proposed, and what we're looking at from our district is how do we, if we get a vote here, that's not all of our district. That's this many people here in this room making that decision. How do we bring this question to our district, get valuable input, and make a very sound decision on what should be the project of choice coming up? Because we have very limited funds. And that's the question I am trying to figure out, and I want to bring that to everybody here and come up with some solutions for that on how to do that, or maybe just vote here. I don't know, but I'm trying to figure out how to do that here. So, you guys have any other ideas that we need to figure out, or?
Choose first.
I was just gonna say, can we make suggestions? Because you just listed off of a few things. Are those the only things we're looking at?
No. We have the SEDS document that has a list of stuff, but I was really looking at coming here. That's one of the suggestions. How do we get input? Do we want to come here and have everybody input here, and then weed it down to the top 3, and then tell everybody to come here and we're going to vote on it, or do we just do that today? Vote on it? I don't know.
Well, with all the ideas and everything, after you get all the input from all the members and make that list to go over, basically you would just kind of weed through them, after having several meetings, whether they be online, a webinar, or just here, whatever you decide to do, and then just kind of go with that, okay, this is plausible and people really like this, so this goes over here in this box over here, Not so many people like this, even though it was a decent idea, so this goes over in this box, and just kind of weed through them as fast as you can. But as for a suggestion, may I make one for something to spend that money on? Partnering up with Goodwill, because we're looking at all the things that we don't have money for and all the stuff that's on there. If we got a Goodwill here, they would help partner up and pay for all those programs and continue, and it would give not only the reservation some programs and some help, anybody from this whole county can go. So that's descendants, non-tribals, and I know some of you might get all upset about that, but it would bring a lot of programs. The Goodwill holds their own programs as it is because they have the programs for the technology for elders to teach you to use our computers, the iPads. They have the domestic violence programs, which we are having a problem with right now. There are so many things that they'll bring. After-school programs. They work with Habitat with Humanity for housing. So if you wanted to look for something to combine that will bring that much more instead of saying, let's just pick one thing. You guys get one thing, one opportunity. It doesn't seem fair.
We're not trying to limit it to one thing, we're just saying that we're limited on funds.
And that's why it's gonna go to probably just one thing.
Well, we can only do so much with what we got, that's what we gotta say.
And that's why I was just suggesting.
I got a recommendation for one thing.
Hold on, we got Larry, didn't you? One thing.
I'll listen.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Fix your road out here. This is the tribal program.
Well, that's going to be done regardless of the
That has just been recently put on the IRR last week that they had to do like, they're gonna be starting an architectural design. Once they get that done, then they'll put it out for bid. Once it's put out for bid, then they'll get the winning bidder and they're gonna do it. They already have the funding there. It's just to wait for fall, wait for spring.
Take pictures of it, send it to them.
Remember when we had that earthquake?
Yes, ma'am.
That earthquake damaged that pipe that runs from the end of the center that goes that way to the right. That's why it's sinking.
Is it
Good
leaking?
to know.
No, it's sinking. That's why it's sinking, because that ground sink. I'll show you tomorrow.
Okay. My new office?
Yeah, I'll put you in.
No, then now it's my turn.
All right, Larry.
Need to tip. Unless the elder needs to.
Go ahead first, you know, really.
Okay. You know, you're asking about the input and how do we do this. I mean, how many were here last month? How many were you here last month?
I think so.
So, who's been here since September? I think is when we've been starting our monthly. Has everyone been here at least one meeting since September? Okay. Now each month I think we see different faces and we see the same faces. So that's good. It's good. It gets the word out. I think these rallies, you know, Mr. Larsky is sitting there with his sign. They had some communication. We got some communication. But one of the things, I mean, we go out, we talk to our family members. I mean, my family members are in Spokane. I talk to them. I tell them what's going on. You know, I talk to my cousin who doesn't want to come. But, you know, they're informed. And about the information that we're presenting and the information we're getting out, one of the things is I think we're trying to get that consistent message. And that's why it's really important that we have these meetings every month at the same time so that there's consistency. And, you know, I think we should have a rally, you know, one of these days, and when we get to closer, or maybe we should have been before. And we all go out and say, hey, I know, I'll go visit my family. Now, how many have at least 10 homes to go to here in Omak? No? No? Am I the only one that has 10 family members?
I think you're the only one just holding your hand up.
Oh, come on, Kelly. Come on, Kelly. How many people in your family? What I'm saying is, we can work together as a drive. That's one of my suggestions. The other suggestions I would have is, you know, there's phone numbers out there that I know I hate getting phone calls, but if I heard, you know, Kelly call me up and say, hey, Larry, I got some important news for you. I wanted you to, you know, do you have time to listen? Or send me, you know, I'm going to text you or something like that. Not picking on Kelly just because I see her every once in a while. But I think these are very important to be part of it. You know, some people can get up in front of people and talk. Some can't. Some want to have their voice heard. And I remember being a young man and listening to my elders, and I remember sitting next to two elders, and one of the elders whispering to the other one, and talking. And if you've been to some ceremonial dances, winter dances, you hear that when you have a singer and so on. They're talking to each other. So that's what's important, is to get the message out. How do we do that? We do that by being here, by using whatever means we have available, and getting our ideas put together. We have sets. You know, I think the idea of being here in district by the council members being accessible is going to be helpful. And make sure that's posted. Make sure that's posted. My only other suggestion is when we, so next month, which I haven't looked at the date, well, what's today? Today's the 21st. So March 21st is going to be our next meeting, right? Because it's exactly 4 weeks from now. So we should post our meeting instead of the day of. I mean, I know on Facebook, Manny goes, hey, when is our meeting? I said, it's usually tomorrow, being the third Thursday of the month. But, you know, now we know, say, March 21st should be our next meeting. Well, the other good thing about March 21st is what? First day of spring, okay. But anyways, some ideas, some suggestions. and hopefully we can do some of these things. And I know, I've said this before, I'm willing to help. I think everyone here has some measure of investment, if not, in fact, probably more than a lot of people, because they're here consistently. You see how many hands went up that's been here, at least 1 or 2 meetings. So, I'd sit down, but I'm just...
I guess if we're going for one thing, my priority would be the senior site. We've already got a lot of needs assessment done, and I've talked to a lot of people. And I think part of what we really need to do next is find a site. And we were thinking about going over to Realty and find out what sites are available.
We've been discussing this. I just met with Dan yesterday afternoon about this. We had our meeting over here, advisory, that you're aware of. We were all here. We discussed the possibility of tribal trail, Crossing Tribal Trail as the location. We don't know if we're going to have archaeology, history hold up again. The other property that this is just for consideration, was the Dell Field down the road down there where they were talking about the Omak Casino at one time. I think there's a 130-acre parcel, 160. These are just possible ideas that we brainstorming. As you're aware, they one of their ideas was putting it over here by these apartments on the east side. I was pretty vocal in saying I wouldn't support that, being that's a highly infested drug area. So I wouldn't support that. So we're working on it. We're still on that issue.
We're probably, we've been reading too also, so when we're trying to get things going and get a lot of input in, we want to have an input in, if we have selection of places, we want to do it over here, so.
I could just speak to that real quick, is that that's a, I think, at least just talking with these guys and Lynn too, that's a real high priority for us. We want to make sure that happens. And I just want to talk about it in the broad context too, because I think it would be worth our while to really find us. I don't know how this is going to work, but we need to find a place where we can locate things near each other, right? So that right now all our community buildings are just scattered, and you know, this was, I think, in the floodplain. If it didn't have the dike, it'd be a flood area. So you know, we need. I was just whispering to Stina, maybe we, you know, as a tribal government, we need to condemn some of those old Apple buildings and just raise them, and then, you know, that's going to be our, this is ours, you know. We can get radical and start doing some of that. But we do, this is, you know, I was talking to our executive director about this. In Tulalip, what they did is they developed a town within their reservation and established it. It's called Placida, that's where their casino is. We can definitely do that with East Omak and see that area that's now considered Omak. That would be our own town, and establish it ourselves. And that way we can really, you know, make. So, long story short, I hear what you're saying, but I wanna really look at that broad picture and how we develop it. So it's all intertwined.
One thing that I want to do is, and I kind of do this in the council chambers too, is these projects are all need to happen. The senior meal site, the community center, IHS, they all need to happen. But what we really want to do is we want to gather, you know, all the projects that are proposed out there in the community, and then look at it and say, what would be our, if everything worked out between a location, between funding, what would be the highest priority that we would want, and then start ranking it down. And then if that, you know, if the senior center is the highest priority, these ones get put on the list for next year or the following year. This one, we focus on it and we work through every single thing that we can to get it done. And if it can't happen, then we move on to the next project. But if it can happen, then we get it done. But we really need to have as much community input on that project as much as possible. And then we need to rank that somehow. So that to me means that we have to vote on it somehow in our own district. And then, of course we're gonna have to figure out how to make that happen, which is to me it's called a special project. We start allocating funds to get it done, get the surveys done, to go out to realty and find the property, to do the construction plans and all that. That can be done in its own time, but in the interim, we need to get we need to get the project list going for our community. I guess is what we need.
And if I could, I've also talked to Dan about, we've discussed it in council and implementing a master plan, which is going to cost like $300,000 to have an outside company come in and GIS all 4 districts, so that when we start making these plans for these priorities, we're not building something here, putting in whether it's concrete or asphalt, and then next year you get new council, you get whoever they come in, they got to rip some of that out and do something else. We're trying to use it as our main foundation so that everything branches off of that, so that we can always continue to move forward and not take 1 step forward, 2 steps back. We also discussed in that advisory senior meeting with you when you were here that, as far as location, I guess a dream that I have for our elders is that when we pick a location that it's enough area, big enough to where you can do your senior building, eventually you can do your clinic, you can do your wellness center, you can do elderly housing. If you could have all that in one spot, you guys have most of your needs met without having to get in a car and drive 10 miles or run all across the reservation to get your needs met. So that's just a vision that I have, and that hopefully we can all be on the same page. But I'm really we're pushing for a senior mill site, but the way the Quampong is set up right now with the 1%, it has to be community driven. So it's not just my decision, us 3 and then, so it has to come.
That would be part of it too. We're putting, this money is forcing us to get with the community and start doing these projects. But definitely, if that, the senior center is the highest priority on our list, we're going to try like heck to find any kind of resources that we can to fulfill that need, not just this money. But the initial thing is this money's kind of forcing us as a community to get involved and outline our priorities. And we can definitely find other funds for the IHS clinic. We're already trying to do that one in a different direction. Andy and Nancy are trying to get that on the list.
Well, we're on the list.
What's that list?
I said the IHS is on the list that we put
Yes.
on the 25th.
Yeah. There's other options too, but we just need to get that priority list going.
I guess the downside of the grants, I'm all in support of grants and getting that outside funding, but grants take time, and there's no guarantee if we hold off one of these projects, whether it's our #1 project, that's a senior mill site, we hold off, and we wait 6-9 months down the road on this grant or response for this grant. If we don't get it, we just killed all that time. So that's just one of the realistic things that we got to keep in perspective.
There's one thing that I wonder about. Omak area is the biggest area. We have 40% of all cities. And, compared to the other 3 districts, we have 40%. The other thing that Omak is the biggest area for people coming for, the other thing is also, and a lot of their needs are just as great. So it seems to me that they would go by population and need on the districts.
For the
For
money.
money.
That's common sense.
We've had that discussion, and you got the other district councilmen that aren't so willing to part with their share. Trust
Yeah,
me.
no,
Trust me. We've had that. I mean,
Well, we're gonna keep pushing it, though, we're gonna push it. Before you go, Mandy's, actually handing out some public utility tax forms that, as tribal members.
If you live on the reservation,
Mhm.
you're tax exempt, you turn this into the PUD, it does take about 2 days. So before you go to pay your bill, I would turn this in so that it registers. After that, you're tax exempt for the whole time. The bill does have to be in a tribal member's name, it doesn't have to be a member of our tribes, it does have to be a member of a tribe. So, that's this is just PUD, I don't have the cell phone one, you have to go to Smith's and get it from your mom's
Lots of food up
person.
here too. you
I
guys.
have the cell phone, that information here.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I asked someone to get it for me tomorrow so I can upload it online so that you can print it out tomorrow